Hello friends, welcome to the Hindu Editorial analysis. Today's date is 25th November 2020 and we are going to discuss the article which is related to our GS paper 2 Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development and employment. Specifically, we are going to discuss the article which is related to banking sector and corporatization of banking sector. The title of the article is Say No to Corporate Houses in Indian Banking. These are the headings under which we are going to discuss the present article. Before beginning with the article, let us go through some of the important words which we come across while discussing the article. First word is jubilation. It means a feeling of great happiness and triumph. Second is scathing, which means witheringly scornful or severely critical, or we can say the meaning of scathing is devastating. The third word is conglomerates, a large corporation formed by the merging of separate and diverse firms. Next word is naive, that is inexperienced. Disingenuous, which means not experienced. Then last word is perdition, which means destruction or downfall. Let's begin with the article. Recently, the internal working group of RBI has recommended the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, that corporate houses to be given the bank licenses, which means the corporate companies which are opting for the bank licenses will be provided with opening the license to open their new banks. Let us understand the background of a particular article or the topic. In February 2013, the RBI issued a guidelines against providing bank licenses to the corporate companies, but only two banks, which is IDFC and Bandhan Bank, have got the license to open their banks. In 2014, the RBI restored, that is, also did the same thing, which is against the support of providing the licenses to the corporate sector. Former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan, who was heading the Committee on Financial Sector Reforms in 2008, also recommended and took the stand against providing the license to the corporation houses. Also, the same thing is followed in US, which is prohibiting from providing the bank licenses to corporate companies. The Internal Working Committee has put some of the advantages of corporatization of banking sector. That the corporate house, that it will bring capital and expertise to the banking sector, and also it is mentioning that many jurisdictions across the world also allowing the corporate company to open their banks. Let's understand the main concern which the author is mentioning. The writer of the article has specifically mentioned the main concern, which is interconnected lending, is the major concern, and concentration of economic power and the safety net to the banks might get affected. The meaning of interconnected lending is, which refers more specifically to linkages between and across the relationships among economic agents that are created through financial transactions and supporting the arrangements. The interconnectedness is one of the key factors of the framework of assessing systemic risk in banking sector. Systemic risk involves the changes in government policies and the reforms which has been made in tax structure, the political instability and natural disasters, etc. Before moving further, let us understand what the article or the writer is trying to convey. The writer has mentioned how corporate companies can manipulate and misuse the given bank license from the government or RBI. The corporate houses can easily turn banks into source of funds for their own business. ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ಕಂಪ್ನೀಸ್ ಏನಿರ್ತವೆ ಅವು ಈ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಫಂಡನ್ನು, ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಫಂಡನ್ನು ತಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಂತ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ಡೈವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು. ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ದೇ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೈವರ್ಟ್ ದ ಫಂಡ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಟು ದೇರ್ ಅಲೈಸ್ ಆರ್ ದೇರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್. ಕ್ರೋನಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಅಲೈಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ವಿಚ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಶೋಸ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ದ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಪವರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಂಪನಿ ವಿಚ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಬೈ getting the bank license. As the politicians use the political power for their own interest. ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಪವರನ್ನು ತಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಂತ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತಾರೆ, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ಸ್ ಕಂಪನಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟ್ ದ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟಿ which is given by the RBI to open the bank license, which can be exploited, which in turn push the depositors at the risk, and government may have to rescue the depositors through the public safety net, which increases the burden of the government. Corporate may divert the fund to India or abroad in various ways, and it will be challenging to trace this. ಇದನ್ನ ಟ್ರೇಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. and also there requires various laws and law enforcing agencyನೂ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ by corporation companies which can be stopped. ಈ ಲಾ ಎನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಏನು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಟ್ರೇಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನ ಎನ್ಕ್ವೈರಿ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ. ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಪವರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಷನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಈ ಲಾ ಎನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿಗಳನ್ನು ತಡಿಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ RBI ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಬಿ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ಸಚ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನಾಟ್ ಪ್ರಿವೆಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಇಟ್ಸ್ proactive steps. RBI ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಅದೇನು ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ಬೋದೇ ಹೊರತು ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರಿವೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗೋಲ್ಲ. ಇವನ್ ದೋ RBI's to take action with such companies or cases, the interconnected lending in response, bank may lose the fund or deposits which is put by the depositors, which leads to flight of deposit from the banking, or you can understand that it may leads to the failure which create stress on economy. The fourth point which is concern of the writer is it may also damage the credibility of RBI, which is the regulator of bankings in India, when conflicts arises between regulator or powerful corporates, which in turn hurts the status of RBI. The internal working groups also has recommended that by proper regulations, the NBFC which are run by corporates since 10 years will be given the license, but the writer says that there are huge differences between NBFCs and banks. The bank ownership provides first difference ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ the bank ownership provides access to public safety net. Public safety net ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ the welfare assistance which is provided by public sector banks to the people to improve their lives and livelihood, which NBFC non-banking financial companies cannot afford to do, as they are driven by completely driven by the commercial interest only, and the reach and support which is provided by the banks is much more superior than the NBFCs. And finally, in conclusion, the writer writes about if corporate companies enters into banking system, it may lead to privatization of that particular bank, and also selling of any banks to the corporate company may raise a serious problem of financial instability in the economy. There absolutely requires some reforms in the banking sector, but he is not supporting the corporatization of bankings, and he is also suggesting that corporatization of banking system or banking sector which hardly qualifies any of the criteria. By observing the over leveraging to the corporate company in the recent years shows that the entry of corporates to banking may act as a punishment. The meaning of perdition is punishment rather than remedy. In overall article, the writer criticizes the idea of giving the bank license to the corporate companies, and also suggests that the idea has various concerns which are discussed in the article. But for mains exam, the candidate has to write a balanced view on particular issue or a topic, and try to write an answer for the following question in 250 words. The question is, in the context of recent recommendation of RBI's internal working group, discuss the corporatization of banking sector and its implication on Indian economy. So that's all for today's discussion. Thank you so much for the discussion and have an awesome day.